For many years, the Senate Democrat caucus has promoted a nonpartisan or bipartisan commission to take redistricting out of the political environment of the legislative session. We believe there is still a bill alive. We believe that it still could be done this year. The bill could pass. The timeline is still right for that to be done. So we're still promoting that, but because the Senate Republicans continue to reject that idea, today we're proposing the first draft of some maps that include the Senate districts and the U.S. congressional districts. We call it our good government plan because we've also done a whole series of maps that were weird-shaped and all kinds of other things, but we really wanted to focus in on what we call the 3 C's, districts that are compact, districts that respect the communities of interest, and districts that are competitive, because we think that better serves the needs of the voters. We want voters to choose their representatives rather than the other way around, representatives choosing their voters, and that we believe that redistricting should be about that process. So I am going to introduce Senator Lannon, who has taken the lead on redistricting for our caucus, and he will kind of point out to you some of the proposals and compare them for you to existing maps so you can see what we're trying to achieve. So, Tim?
Thank you, Senator Simpson. Thank you to the press for being here today. And we are happy to unveil our first go, you might say, at our maps. I do want to emphasize, as Senator Simpson pointed out, that this is just a beginning. We're starting in the process, although, as everyone knows, we're down now about 1 month to go in the session. So it's time to get moving. We thought that it was time to get a map out there. So as Senator Simpson mentioned, these are our good government plans, as we call them, because they are based upon, and as you look at these maps, I think you'll see this, the 3 C's, as we call them. And those 3 C's are compactness, communities of interest, and competitiveness. Now, by compactness, of course, we're referring to the geographic shape of the districts with an emphasis on boundary regularity and minimal strain from the district center. And as you look at our proposed maps, the proposed maps are right here, closest to the podium, you might say, and they do say good government plan proposed Senate districts. The current maps are on the my far right over there, and I hope you can see that we have, I think, improved the compactness of the districts overall, and I'm going to point out a couple of examples of that as we go along. Now, you do have to remember this is not an exact science. We know it's not just as simple as drawing 50 squares. We wish it was that simple. It can't be that simple because we've also had to adhere to the population parameters, which, following the census, are approximately 129,700 in each district. The second C that we have really tried to adhere to is keeping community of interest together within the same district. So when you look at our proposed districts, you'll see that we have kept towns and cities intact wherever possible. We have considered the urban versus rural aspects of a community of interest. And I might particularly point to, and I'll step away from the microphone and do this just for a second here, because you might be saying, what is that island here, which is District 22, surrounded by all of this green? Well, again, that's a community of interest because District 22 is West Lafayette and Lafayette. So it made sense to us to have an urban district that preserves those community of interest surrounded by the more rural area then around it. And yes, that does create the sort of island effect, but it also preserves community of interest. Then the final C that we have addressed, and which we think is included in these maps, is competitiveness. This map is fair. We think it does respect the state's partisan leanings, but we do not think that the citizens believe that the idea of overwhelming majorities, supermajorities, is good for democracy, and we have not created supermajorities with this with this map. So let me talk a little bit more about the compactness issue here by virtue of these examples that we have here. You see here in the middle map, current Senate District 20. It sort of meanders all over the place from Hamilton County, goes up to parts of my county, Madison, into Tipton and Grant County, and it splits 5 townships. But if you look at the proposed Senate District 20, you can see that it now would only contain 2 counties, Tipton and Hamilton County, and splits only 1 township. Another example we have down here at the bottom of the chart is current Senate District 35, which spreads over 3 counties currently, Southern Marion, Morgan, and Johnson County. But underneath our good government proposal, it would be wholly contained within Wayne Township in Marion County. So this is the approach we've taken. Again, it's a start. We're going to be, we've been listening to the public at the meetings that have occurred. We've been gathering the comments. We'll continue to do that. We're still, you know, even looking at it ourselves in terms of it. But we think this is a good start for maps. We've also included congressional districts over here. And let me just suffice to say on this, when you look at the 2 maps with the current congressional district and there are proposed congressional districts, I really think the maps pretty much speak for themselves. We have really tried to, again, achieve the compactness within the various districts. We believe that our proposed maps are more compact than the current districts. We also have really tried to have a regional approach. And so when you look at the maps, you see a region which reflects the far northeast portion of Indiana, and which reflects the far southeastern district. And the, of course, Marion County has this district, which is even more compact than it currently is, and so forth and so on. So we have really tried to achieve, by virtue of the congressional maps, compactness, but also tried to really be reflective of what we think are logical regions of the state.
Our reason for putting these maps out now is because they are a first draft. We want to give the public an opportunity to have some input. Some of our members will be having public hearings of their own in their own districts, taking the maps with them and asking for input from the public. We want to provide as many venues as we can. We have put all of this information up on our website. We have a Facebook page. In addition to having just the maps, we also we're downloading the data files for these maps, so people will be able to actually get online and kind of manipulate the maps and play with them a bit. Which I think is going to be a lot more useful than what is being provided right now by the other caucuses. Now, let me just inject a note of reality here. We understand that the Republicans will be drawing the maps. We know that, but we hope by bringing these maps out to demonstrate that you can draw fair district maps that adhere to the rules of compactness, community interest, and competitiveness, and that there are districts. It's not difficult to draw districts that better serve the voters, so that voters feel like they're being given a choice. Instead of protecting incumbents. Redistricting should not be just about protecting incumbents, should not even be about protecting or preserving the majority parties. It should be about serving the voters, and that's why we're putting these out early, so people will have an opportunity to have input and to react to maps rather than just to a blank wall.